Hey guys, please excuse my microphone as I'm recording in my laptop. Before I start the video, viewer discretion is strongly advised. In 2011, me and my family were at Durand Lake in upstate New York on a roller coaster called the Ride of Steel. On the track, there runs 2 trains, with 8 or so cars per train. They sit 2 people across and had lap restraints. I was on train 2, which was on the station. While getting in, I looked out on the coaster and thought I saw a falling blob just after a second major drop. I shook it off as I wear glasses and my vision is still really bad. Well, we go around the track and stop just before the station. We were waiting and waiting, and me and my family wondered what was happening. We see the car in front of us is still occupied with the riders, with an empty wheelchair next to one of the cars. Now, it was a packed ride with long wait lines. Every seat was very full except one, in the car next to the wheelchair. After waiting about 15 minutes, they finally let everyone off but keep the train in the station. After about 15 minutes more, they send the train and we pulled into the station. The ride attendees are in shock and don't talk to anyone. Later, we talked to some waiting guests who were in the line to ride the Ride of Steel. They said a man fell out. I witnessed a death of a guy on a roller coaster and didn't even realize it. The guy who died was an Iraqi veteran, double amputee, who was missing one leg and most of the other. He flew out of the lap bar because he had no legs. To this day, people do not believe me when I tell this story, and my family barely believes me, as I was 12 at the time. I was never really afraid of gore and death, but in that moment, there sits a feeling knowing you witnessed someone's last moment alive. That feeling is indescribable. I used to live in a 3-story townhouse in Charlotte, North Carolina, with my little sister and 2 parents. My father used to travel a lot for work, and my little sister would sometimes stay with her friends for sleepovers, as she was in elementary school. The bottom floor was a mudroom/laundry room. There was a few steps up to a landing where the front door was. Another few steps to the living room/kitchen area on the 2nd floor. Then a full flight of stairs to the top of the floor, with 2 adjacent bedrooms. I had recently met a new classmate of mine, who was Indian and had moved to the US with her parents. She usually wore traditional variation of sari, a kind of dress that Indian women and girls wear. My sister had spent the night at a friend's house, and my father was away from work. So, being young, I slept that night in the bed with my mom. I'm sleeping on the side of the bed, closest to the door, when I woke up and checked the clock for the time, around 9:30 a.m. Must have been a weekend. My eyes moved over to the door and there was my new classmate, standing in the doorway, in her sari, staring at me and laughing. Not a normal laugh, but silently laughing hysterically. I immediately shot under the covers and started sobbing while my mother continues to sleep next to me. About 10 minutes go by and I peeked at the door. She's still there, laughing silently, like she had heard the funniest joke of her life. Another 5 minutes of sobering later and I peek again. She was gone. All of this has happened while broad daylight had been shining through the windows in the master bedroom. I woke up my mother and explained. We checked the whole house and no one had been in or out. All floors empty and the doors and windows are still locked. There had never been any sort of paranormal activity in the townhouse before, and it never happened again. Safe to say I was terrified of my new classmate until I moved away a year later, and I still have no explanation as to what it was that was laughing at me that morning. This isn't really creepy, but when I was a kid, I used to sleep alone, which I really don't know why. One night, while sleeping, I suddenly woke up without reason. Like, really, without any reason. I just woke up and it was like 3 in the morning. The logically thing to do is to sleep again. And so I turned my back and I freaking saw someone or something just beside me. It had short black hair just above the shoulder, a full white dress facing back at me, and I froze. I don't know what to do. I actually think I tried calling it because I thought it was my mom, but it's not because it doesn't move. For frick's sake, I don't even think it breathed. For like an hour I just stared at it, and I don't know how I got to sleep with that creepy thing just beside me. But it's better that I sleep than staring at it the whole night. So I'm grateful. Anyways, when I woke up, I go to my parents' room and see that my mom was wearing a black night dress, so I can't say it's her. I tried telling my mom what happened, but she didn't believe me, and my dad said that it's my grandma, which I never met. My grandma died when I was just 12 years old, and I never really see any portraits or pictures of her because life was pretty tough. It's not easy to get a camera before, so yeah. I still don't know if I was just hallucinating during that time. So, I got home from my job as a server at midnight. One of my roommates was in the Navy and was deployed at the time, and the other one was at his girlfriend's house. I cooked myself dinner, and as I'm cooking, my dog starts growling and barking towards the middle of the room at nothing. This is especially weird because she never ever barks. She was a rescued, and I bought her as a sense of security when I'm home alone. I'm female, and I could never ever get her to bark at anyone. I dismiss her barking as odd. After that, I finish cooking and eating. I start to clean and turn the sink on because it takes forever to get hot. But right when I turn around, the sink turns off on its own. Again, I think it's odd, but I didn't really think it's worth freaking out over. The hair on the back of my dog is standing up straight, but no one is home, and it's midnight, so I figured I just thought it out, even though I was beginning to get a little spooked. After cleaning, I went to the bathroom and sit on the sink to pluck my eyebrows. My bathroom was small, with the sink immediately to your right as you enter, with the toilet next to it, bathtub at the end, and the toilet paper dispensary directly across the toilet. It was a really narrow room, so you could reach the toilet paper while sitting on the toilet. So, the way I was sitting, the toilet paper dispensary was behind me. After 2 to 3 minutes, I heard a weird noise behind me. So I turn around, and I shit you not, the whole roll of toilet paper is unraveling fast as fuck, as if someone was pulling it. I noped the fuck out of that bathroom. The door was closed and it had no windows, so it couldn't have been a breeze. I pulled a leash on my dog and ran out of that apartment as faster than the speed of light. By the time this happened, it was already around 2 a.m. and none of my friends were awake, so I spent the night sitting outside of the door to my apartment. When I went back in the next morning, the whole roll of toilet paper was on the ground, and the roll was probably 3/4 full. I'm talking about a good 5 to 10 meters of toilet paper. After that day, I never had an odd experience quite like that ever again. But one of my roommates did mention that a few times he came home and every door and cabinet in the place was open, when he specifically remembered closing them and leaving them the way he has left it.